Alright, I'm going to take a little bit of time here, show you a slideshow, and show my age a little bit on my custom game controller I'm working on. And what's on the screen right now here is once upon a time there was a joystick called the Panther XL, and it was a joystick trackball combination. And they quit making these, I believe, in 1998, and I bought one in 2000. And I played Half-Life and Doom and what have you with it, and kind of got spoiled. Well, it wasn't that long after I got this thing that, because of this, notice it did not have a USB on the end of it. It had what they called a game port. And this thingy right here is where we used to plug our joysticks into our computers. So it wasn't useful for very long. It just didn't plug into computers just didn't plug into a computer anymore. And I can't remember what happened to mine, but I've never been happy with anything but a joystick trackball combo since then. And I had already had an Arduino Uno that I had for other purposes, and I had this here Thrustmaster joystick I had gotten at a thrift store for $20, and it was mostly okay. The 3 buttons on the base didn't work, but everything else was fine. And I got to see here's my Logitech trackball, and it's not. I've been using trackballs ever since I've been using Windows, basically, since 3.11. And this is not what I'm looking for in a trackball. I like how the old trackballs used to be. And I had been seeing on the internet where people have been interfacing mice with Arduino boards, and there was an Arduino joystick program. So I added wires, because I took the controller out of this joystick, and all this joystick is now, and this is why I'm adding extra wires and stuff to go to all the buttons. It's buttons and potentiometers, and the USB controller that Logitech put in it is gone. And so that was part of am I capable of doing this? And with the tools that are available with the Arduino IDE program and the TweenCDino, where the libraries have already been written for you. And what that means is, yeah, you got to program this thing in C++, but not really, because most of the code's been written for you. And so you don't really have to know how to program in C++. And so there's what the joystick looks, there's my joystick right now. The joystick right now is actually plugged into the computer through this Arduino Uno board. Those buttons are as far as this Arduino Uno board is concerned, these 3 buttons are the 3 buttons that were on the base, and this is taking the place of the throttle axis at the moment, and everything works. So then I started thinking about, what about a custom trackball, because I looked at what's on the market, and I didn't like the button placement in any of them. There's a couple $80 to $120 trackballs that might be okay. And so I started thinking, well, what about making my own? And so this is a first engineering test, and this is a roller ball off the top of deodorant that had the roller ball. And this is a old Apple mouse that I got used for $2 at the local Apple store. And it's like, okay, yes. And this was to answer the question, can I use a mouse sensor for a trackball? And I was able, since I'm running Linux, I was able to go into X input and even reverse the axis that I had to fix, and made that work. So the next thing is, well, how am I going to custom make a suspension? And after more searching around on the internet, they seemed like silicone nitride balls worked. So I got some silicone nitride balls. You can barely see one there, and that's the ball off of my that's the ball out of my standard Logitech TrackMan trackball, and it glides really nice on those silicone nitride balls. So there's like engineering test number 2. Can I make a suspension for a trackball? I'd already proven myself I can do the joystick functions. And so after that, I went ahead and took the plunge and got myself a Teensy, which is this board here. It's I would call it a human interface device development board, but it's much more versatile than that. Whoops, but that's what I'm using it for. I don't know how to go back. Can I go back this way? Yeah. But that's what I'm using it for. But they're much more versatile. And and here we have the mouse sensor chip. And on the other side of this board and on this side of this board, I cut tracks so that this chip is isolated. It is no longer connected to any of the other components on this board. It's isolated there all by itself. It's getting its power and everything else from this Teensy. And you see I've got the Teensy soldered directly to pins on this sensor chip here. It's no longer part of this Apple mouse board. And there's a suspension. I found the proper size plumbing parts. And after trial and error, I found a size drill bit that the silicon nitride balls would fit tight. But it was a nice tight friction fit, and I drilled the holes all the way through, pushed the balls in, and then backed them up with a piece of hot melt glue. There's the ball sitting on the mount. Not a very good picture, but there it is nonetheless. And then here's the beginnings of the whole trackball. I've got the 3 mouse buttons there, left, middle, and right click. I've got everything hot melted glued together, and since I went with a high ball, and what I mean by high ball is like you got half the ball sticking out here, and like on a standard arcade machine or a standard trackball, there's about a third of the ball sticking up. And since I went with the high ball configuration, I put this thing on a tilt to get the buttons closer to my finger. If I would have had less of the ball exposed, I would have went ahead and made this flat. And there it is from the top. It looks pretty nice from the top. It looks a lot better from the top. And like I said, this is all just like, I'm basically considering this all still a mock-up. And the next thing I want to do is get this scroll stick, and I've been stuck on the code for the scroll stick. I want to do horizontal and vertical scrolling with this little stick here, and then get this joystick off of the Arduino Uno and onto that Teensy board. And so I'll have one USB cord that plugs in the computer, and of course this will end up being one unit right now, and so it'll have one USB plug that plugs in the computer, and your joystick and the trackball will be plugged in, instead of right now they're on their separate things. So I got to get my next plans is to get the scroll stick going, and to get this joystick moved from the Arduino Uno to the Teensy, and package it better. I may go back to using this throttle slider, I'm not sure yet. I have more buttons I can add. I have more Saimitsu arcade machine buttons. I've got 2 little ones and another normal size ones. I might even have more. I think I did plan for a thumb button. I'm not sure. I don't think I have enough for 2 thumb buttons. And so it's getting pretty close to what the Panther XL was like, and this is what I play my first person shooters with. And alrighty, so there's that part of the equation, and then now let's go and look at some of the stuff. P8, the board I used is this one right here, this Teensy ++2, because it was the cheapest one I could get at the time that had enough inputs, because I wanted to do these, a whole bunch of joystick buttons. and a trackball. If you just wanted to do a trackball, just this low cost one would be more than enough. Or, but I wanted, my final plans was to make a Panther XL clone, and so I went with this Teensy Plus Plus 2. Now, if I had a larger budget, I would want to get this sensor board. It's available. Here's the website, available on Tindy, and it gives you the board and the lens here. You can barely see the lens. It gives you the board and the lens and everything everything you need to interface it with an Arduino. And with up to 2,000 counts per inch, entry-level gaming mouse sensor. So that would be, and he goes into this in this paragraph here. He talks about why this is better than a laser sensor for some people, and I think I agree with him on that. And so if someone wants to get me this thing, I'll gladly make another trackball and use a better sensor. But there's nothing wrong with the Apple mouse sensor. The main thing is you got to get that ball at the proper distance from the sensor, like it's the surface you're moving. So that's been the thing there. And of course, it is designed to be used as a joystick or any other human interface device, as far as that goes. So the tools for the layperson are you could totally just develop this stuff all on your own now, and so that's just a quick video on my custom game controller and where I'm at with it. Tell me what you think. Leave some comments. And catch you next time.